The Carolina Hurricanes are going on to round two. They have done it. They won it in double overtime, 5-4 on the back of Sebastian Aho. What a absolute bonkers of a game Tuesday night, and it's so good to be a Caniac.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the co-host of the Searchcast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. And oh my goodness, what a wonderful Wednesday episode we got for you guys as the Hurricanes advance to round two of the 2025 NHL Playoffs on the back of a Sebastian Aho game winner in double overtime to win 5-4, taking the series 4-1. Gotta talk about the power play and the PK shining once again, not just in this game, but the playoffs overall. And we get to hear from Jaccob Slavin post-game. But before we jump into all of that great stuff to talk about, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And wow, what can you really say about this game? It was absolutely bonkers from start to finish. Hurricanes outshoot the Devils 54-35. Second OT was 5-1. First OT was 14-3. 15-8 in the third period. And it's crazy how this game was, because you look at the first period and you're thinking, man, 10 minutes in, Devils up 3-0, less than, under 10 minutes in the first period. You're like, okay, this game's gone sideways. What are they going to do? And it's just one of those things that Hurricanes have proved it. They have proved it in this playoff. They've proved it in the regular season. They've proved it in the past. Never, ever count out the Carolina Hurricanes in a game, especially when it comes to the playoffs. And lo and behold, second period comes around. Bang, Taylor Hall scores on the doorstep in the crease, 3-1 game. Not that much later, bang, Jackson Blake makes it 3-2. All right, one goal back. Team's kind of feeling it. You see Jackson Blake celebrating. He's losing his mind. And then the third goal in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Andrei Svechnikov for his fourth goal in 2 games, 5 on the series. Have yourself a first round. Andrei Svechnikov, bang, 3-3. Game is tied. And oh my word, like, you could have sworn that the building was going to fall apart. Like, forget the roof blowing off of Lenovo Center. I'm surprised that building is even standing after the Hurricanes completed that comeback, making it 3-3. Just absolute insanity. The team accounts is tweeting out that the arena is literally shaking. Fans are losing their minds. The guys are losing it, because you claw your way back from an early 3-0 deficit. You come out in the second period absolutely flying. And Trip Tracy said the Hurricanes have been a good second period team in this playoff, and it showed again as they clawed their way back. Yeah, unfortunately, he sure had a quick answer, made it 4-3. It is what it is. And then later on the period, Sebastian Aho, power play goal, bang, 4-4. And now that is, at that point, 5 power play goals in the series. And at this point, you're like, oh my goodness, the power play is absolutely rolling right now. They've come back from 3-0 down to make it 3-3, came back and made it 4-4. Just what an absolute thrilling second period for the Hurricanes. Outscoring the Devils 4-1, outshot them, set it for a third period to where, hey, if you win the period, you win the game. Unfortunately, Markstrom kept him in the game, made a lot of great shots. Okay, on to bonus hockey. First period, Carolina is all over New Jersey. All over them. I mean, like I said, you look at an overtime period where you outshot them 14-3. There was multiple times that game could have ended early. Seth Jarvis, I think, hit the post once, and he almost lost it. Jordan Martinick almost scored. Like, there was multiple opportunities. It's just Markstrom was holding them at bay. And then in the second overtime, just some great sequence by the Canes all over New Jersey once again. They get a power play after Sperry Kotkaniemi basically takes a stick to the eye, bleeding profusely. You definitely tell he's going to have a shiner because his eye was swollen shut in his right eye after taking that stick from Dawson Mercer. But then for the second power play goal of the game, and who else? None other than Sebastian Aho does it again, completes the 3-point night, scores it, bang, 5-4. That is all said and done. Get ready for the handshake line because the Hurricanes won that game 5-4, and it was just what a dramatic way to do it. The last time the Hurricanes beat the Devils was in Game 5 in overtime, and that was just Brad Foster doing it. This time, you fast forward 2 seasons later, it's round 1, and it's Sebastian Aho in double overtime. The last guy to score in double overtime for the Hurricanes, how about Brock McGinn in 2019 against the Washington Capitals? Talk about slaying the multiple overtime demon where the Hurricanes have been struggling for the last few postseasons when it comes to multiple overtimes. They got the job done. Aho gets the game winner because, of course, that would be Sebastian Aho doing it. Scored the last 2 goals of the game, both on the power play. And now you're looking at a team that's going 4-1 series winners, and now they move on to round 2 where they wait for the winner of the Washington Capitals and Montreal Canadiens, who are playing their Game 5 on Wednesday night. So depending on how it goes, you might know who the Hurricanes are facing. Then you might have to wait a little bit longer. But honestly, that's fine. Give these guys some rest because they've logged 2 double overtime games since last week. Game 3 double OT, Game 5 double OT. Give them a little bit of rest. Hopefully Fraser Garrison's ready to go. But just an overall insane game from the Carolina Hurricanes where you look at a team 54-35 in shots, won the faceoff 52.5% to 47, 2 for 6 on the power play, 33.3%, shut out the Devils 0 for 3, out hit them 46-39. And here's the crazy stat too, for the fact that the Hurricanes had 54 shots on goal. They had another 25 blocks. So you're at least looking at a 79 shot attempts for the Carolina Hurricanes. But they found a way to come out there in the series. And you look at a team that's just, how can you not be excited about how the Hurricanes have played? Orlov and Slavin get points. Shane Gostisbehere gets 2 points. Both of them are assists. Jankowski got an assist. Taylor Hall gets a goal. Blake, Svechnikov all get goals. Stankoven gets the assist on the Hall goal. Seth Jarvis, multi-point night, 2 assists. And then Sebastian Aho, 3-point night, 2 goals, 1 assist. And, of course, he gets the game winner. And now for the 7th straight season, the Hurricanes win a playoff round. They move on in the Rod Brind'Amour era. And Rod Brind'Amour is the first coach to win a playoff round in the first 7 seasons behind the bench. Yeah, 2020 was a qualifier. They don't really count that as a first round win. He still won a playoff round. That's what we're going to go with. Just like Corey Laviolette said, hey, that qualifying round wasn't really a round of Andrei Svechnikov getting a hat trick, but they count it as a postseason hat trick. So that's what we're going to call this. Rod Brind'Amour is now 7 for 7 in the postseason of at least winning a series. And the Hurricanes did it in 5. And so I got to the horn a little bit for myself. Predicted it in 5. Hurricanes did it in 5. You love to see it. But honestly, this was just a great game. Just a crazy turn of being down early, coming back to tying it a second time, going deep into a double overtime. And that's all she wrote. Hurricanes win. They move on, and now we get more playoff hockey at Lenovo Center. Now it just comes down to the fact, are you the road team or are you the home team? So it definitely should be interesting. The thing that really took control of the series was special teams, because that was the big question mark, and we got to put some light on how fantastic the Hurricane special teams was. So stick around, and we'll talk about that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The NBA playoffs are almost here. Well, they actually already are here, but more importantly, it's the NHL playoffs that are actually here. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. The big question mark coming into the playoffs, you guys heard me talk about it the last week of the regular season leading up to it. You heard me talking the playoff preview with Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils. You've heard me say it all playoff series long. Special teams has to get going for the Carolina Hurricanes. You know the PK was good. They were first in the NHL in the regular season for a reason. Power play kind of struggled going in. They were 25th. They were going against the Devils with the second best PK and the third best power play. How is that going to factor? Because I said you have to limit the opportunities. If they presented themselves to the Devils, and the Hurricanes have to stay out of the box. And hopefully the power play is going, because you need to win on the road and you need your power play to get going to win games. Well, they won game 4 on the road, and my gut is the special teams absolutely showed out. How about the Carolina Hurricanes? Like I said, entered 25th in the NHL on the power play. They are now currently 6. That's right, 6. On the power play, they are at a 6 for 19 clip. That is a 31.6 power play percentage. The only teams better than them right now are the LA Kings, the Oilers, the Canadiens, Golden Knights, and the Blues. And 2 of those teams are in the 40s, which is kind of crazy to think about if you look at how Edmonton and LA someone just keeps scoring. But yeah, the Hurricanes are 6 on the power play out of everyone at 31.6%. That's a 6 for 19 clip. You would have loved to see them in the 20s in the regular season. They finished less than that, and now right now after 5 games are over 31.5% on the power play. The penalty kill? Well, I mean, talk about one of the greatest penalty kills right now in the NHL. How about a 15 for 15 run for this team? Oh, and they also got a shorthanded goal to go for that as well. Their net PK percentage, which looks when you look at how many penalties you've killed and if you've possibly scored on the shorthand, 106.7% on the net PK. The Florida Panthers, who are second, are 93.3 in both aspects, because they've given up. They're 14 for 15. But the Hurricanes are a 15 for 15 and have scored on the shorthand, and that's why their net PK is 106.7. What more can you really say? If you're Tim Gleason, you're loving this right now. You're absolutely loving this right now, because you're looking at your penalty kill, who scored a shorty, thanks to Jordan Martinook, because he just loves playing the Devils. And now you're 15 for 15. Now, can you keep this run going? Possibly. I don't know how long you're going to do it for, of course. You're looking at a different team if it's Washington or Montreal. But even then, you still took down the number 2 power play and the number 3 penalty kill. The third power play and the second penalty kill unit in the Devils. Of course, regular season stats don't matter. How you do in the playoffs is a different thing. But you're right now at 100% just on the PK alone of just shutting the other team down. You're at 15 for 15. Your net PK is 106.7 because you got a shorty. So if you're Tim Gleason, you're loving this, because your PK guys are absolutely shutting them down with no issues. And you're talking about multiple, penalties you took in the first in the overtime game back in game 3. You had 2 penalties you had to kill off. And you did. And if you're Ryan Brindamore, you're loving the power play. You're loving the power play right now. it was a struggle coming into the playoffs because you didn't know how they were going to be. You're talking about a team that went from 10th to 25th, and they were just not great back into December through pretty much almost through part of March. And now you're looking at 6 for 19. You're at 31.6%. And you're now 6th out of all the playoff teams. Like I said, you need to win on the road. And you need your special teams to get going, especially your power play. Well, you won in game 4. Check that off. And your power play is 6 for 19. Check that off about 6 times. It's fantastic. Like I said earlier in other shows during this playoff run, you need to get that going. And you need to do well with it. And they're doing that. And the fact, too, is everyone knows the Hurricanes are a great 5-on-5 team. There's no debate on that. There's a lot of people that say the Hurricanes are probably one of the best, 5-on-5 teams. And if that power play gets rolling, that's a very dangerous team that you're going to have to go up against because now you're having to worry about them on all facets of the game. Defensively, they can shut you down. 5-on-5, they can score. They'll forecheck you to death. Man-to-man defense is fantastic as always. And now you get a power play that's clicking at 31% at least. That's tough. And you even heard it too with the fact that the Devils are down so many guys. The Hurricanes are the worst team to play against if you're a team that's got a bunch of injuries. Because the Hurricanes are one of the most loaded depth-wise team in the playoffs. I don't know any other team right now that has the depth that the Hurricanes have, where you can look at Jack Roslovic, who scored 22 goals for you as a healthy scratch. Tyson Jost, Riley Stillman, Alexander Nikishin is a healthy scratch. Of course, I mean, he has never played in the North American game, but still, you're looking at a group that's got 2 extra forwards, 2 extra defensemen, and an extra goalie. Now, that definitely could change with the Black Aces since the Chicago Wolves got eliminated. But still, you're talking about a team that's pretty deep, and they just called up Spencer Martin because Franny Anderson he was out for this game, undisclosed, considered day-to-day, so we'll see how that plays out. But even then, now whenever Freddie comes back, you're probably going to have, Spencer Martin's a Black Ace or however that works out with Kaisev. But this team is very deep, and that's why they said this is the worst team to play against if you got guys that are hurt and you're missing a lot of players that are going to because the Hurricanes are that deep on their roster. And they're getting depth scoring from everybody. Everybody is scoring. Marnik has scored. Svechnikov has got 5 goals. It's not really depth scoring, but still. Jaccob Slavin scored a goal, which is crazy. Logan Stankoven's got a couple. Taylor Hall's got a goal and a couple assists already. Sebastian Aho just scored 2 power play goals. Like I said, you're looking up and down this roster. Everyone is putting the pucks in the net. And now you give this team a little bit of extra rest now because they ended their series in 5. If Freddie Anderson comes back healthy, ready to go, and plays like how he was in the first 3 full games and period and a half of game 4, and this team is still rolling ahead and healthy, winning on the road and having their special teams play just as good as their 5-on-5, the Hurricanes are going to be a very tough team to beat. And if it's Washington or Montreal, there's no telling how that series is going to go. But the Hurricanes are going to be in a dogfight. And the fact that they did that with 2 double overtime games and had to come back the way they did, this team is absolutely feeling it. And right now, what you're looking at is a power play that's running very well right now at 31.6%. And you got a PK who's at 100% just on their kill alone, but with that shorty that are 106.7 net percentage. That is very, very scary to see if you're another team because now you got to worry about a Hurricanes team that's rolling and clicking on all cylinders at all facets of the game. Offense, defense, neutral zone, transition, power play, and penalty kill. With the depth they have, with the depth scoring, my goodness, this is a fun team to watch right now. So, speaking of that, let's hear from one of the guys in the post game. We're going to listen to Jaccob Slavin. So stick around and we'll listen to him and get my thoughts on that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said at the end of segment 2, we're going to listen to Jaccob Slavin and give my thoughts on what he said post-game after the Carolina Hurricanes 5-4 double overtime win to move on to round 2. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now.
What was the biggest key to rallying after the first period?
It was a lot of hockey to be played. We're down 3-0 with 50 minutes to go still, and so just trying to put your next step forward and dig in and just take it one shift at a time. Win your small battles, and we came out for the second, and obviously we were buzzing there, and so we dug in, and that's what you got to do at this time of the year.
What's the feeling after that first overtime? You guys really dominated it. Obviously, you're leaning on a little bit, but to not get the goal, and then you have to come in and kind of reset.
Yeah, it's the right mentality, right? We were playing the right way. We were on top of them. We were having them in their zone. Getting the opportunities, and so you can't change that. You got to come in, like you said, reset and go back out and do the exact same thing, and eventually it paid off.
How would you describe that second period, just the flurry of goals?
It was fun, right? It got the crowd into it. CANES were buzzing, and so there's momentum swings in games, and obviously during the playoffs, it's really important to try to keep that momentum on your side, and so it was good for us to win that period, and then just take it one period at a time.
What does it say about the resiliency? You guys easily could have packed it in and said, let's just get them in Game 6.
Yeah, you could have said that, but that's not our team. That's not the mindset that we like to have. We're a hardworking team that's going to go out there and try to compete every shift. Already talks about it all the time with consistency, and so we're just trying to stick to that.
It's the first multiple overtime win since Game 7 in Washington. Does it feel like it's been that long?
It's a long time ago.
And how frustrating has it been, the overtimes lately?
Yeah, it is what it is. You play the game hard, and obviously it's always tough to lose in overtime, but yeah, it's a great feeling to win.
How much was an emphasis to close this thing out on home ice tonight?
I think anytime you get a chance to close out a series, you want to do it. So whether it's home ice, whether it's there, you're trying to win that game. The last one's the hardest one, and obviously the Devils put up a good fight. They played really hard, and so it's never easy to close out a series. But I think it's always nice to do it in front of your fans.
Long hug with Pesh there at the end. The dude is a warrior in the series.
Yeah,
it's obviously it feels good to win, but you got to miss a little of the production.
Yeah.
Big thank you to Jaccob Slavin and the Carolina Hurricanes as always. And you heard it from him. It's, kind of had to dig deep after that, tough first period. But then he heard the excitement in his voice when they asked him about, hey, what about that second period? He goes, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Caniacs were getting into it. And that's the one good thing about being at the Lenovo Center with the fans is the team feeds off the fans and the fans feed off the team. And it's a perfect relationship of where if a team's rolling like this, you can see the effect of that too. And now you can just tell that Jaccob Slavin was loving it. Even if you watched it afterwards too in the post game, you could tell the smile on his face that he was just so excited how that second period went, where you come back down from 3-0, you tie it again. Lenovo Center's rocking, and he was just like, hey, the Canucks did great. It was loud. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just one of those things where, you have to overcome a long road to come back from down like that. Then you have to go to another long overtime, which is very frustrating for sure if you're Slavin in the Canes, because like I said, that's two double overtime games, but he got the job done, and now you got it in 5, and now you get to rest up and wait and see when round 2 starts like that, because you got to wait for Washington Canadians, and you got to wait for everyone else and stuff like that too. So it should be very interesting. But if you're Carolina and if you're Slavin, that's just what a way to just end a perfect night where, like I said, it's a perfect night, because even with that slow start, you find a way to come back. You rally back twice, you get ahead in double overtime, you win it, and now you just get all the excitement because just the pop you got from the fans in that Aho goal, double overtime. Euphoric. You love to see it. And the fun part too is Seth Jarvis's buddies from Winnipeg who went to go see him play Four Nations was there too. And that's like, you have to get them back. You have to get them back because they're just a good luck charm for him. Every time they're there when Jarvis is playing, the team wins. So I hope I hope Seth is okay with putting them up in his apartment for the next few weeks because they're definitely the Canes are definitely going to need them. But what an overall great game by the Canes. Like I said, yeah, it was a slow start. PK was, Kochetkov had a tough start, but overall though he dug deep. Only gave up one after the first period. He only gave up one more goal, so you got to give him credit for there. Yeah, he stopped 31 to 35. His save percentage was, in the 880s. But I think after that initial shock of the first 10 minutes kind of wore out and he just kind of dialed his way back in, he was very solid for the Canes. And of course the Canes, stepped up their game too. It was, not the greatest of starts. It was a little bit sloppy. Zone entries weren't that great. Passes were kind of wonky and just defensive breakdowns, but they were able to lock it in once again, like we saw them do it in game 2. Got the comeback in game 3 and, did that as well. But you can never count these Hurricanes, and you can never say there's no quit in this team. This team will not quit. And that's the one thing about Red Burnhamore, and just his style of play works so well for this team that they embody his mindset of, we're not going to pack it in. We're not going to do this. We're not going to roll over. We're not going to be like, oh, let's just get it back in game 6. No, they're going to battle back and get the job done, and that's what they wanted to do, and they did that. They sent the fans home happy. You're not dragging this thing back out longer because you don't want to give them the momentum. You don't want New Jersey to get the momentum to get back into the series once again. You want to get the job done as soon as possible. You got it done in 5. Now you get to rest up, and now you get ready for the next game, whatever round 2 is, and you wait for who your opponent is. But definitely a crazy night. What a way to cap off a series, but they did the thing. They got the job done. Now it's, what's next for the Carolina Hurricanes? Like I said, you got multiple points from Aho and Jarvis and, Gostisbehere. PK did pretty, he got locked in after that crazy first period. All the guys stepped up when they needed to. Mark Jankowski came out and did his job when KK was out after he got that stick to the face in, double overtime. Of course, it was a double minor, which is crazy, but it just goes to show with this team that you never really have to count them out of a game. Like, they're always going to be there. The Cardiac Canes living strong and hard, but it's just a way of them just finding a way to get it done. And that's all you can ask for. If you get the effort, maybe if it's not 60 minutes, but if you get 50 minutes of effort and you find a way to dig back in the way they did, you just have to give them props for it. And I mean, it's just one of those things where you just have to tip your cap to the Canes for doing what they had to do to get back into this one. And the Devils, even being depleted, did not make it easy for them. But, it's just one of those things where, the schedule rolls on. Gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta play with the hand that you were dealt with. And luckily for the Canes, healthiest roster they've had in a while going into the playoffs. Freddie's out, but they found a way to dig deep and they got the win. And that's all that matters. And now they move on to round 2, and we get some more playoff hockey at Lenovo Center out there in Raleigh. It should be a lot of fun. I'm curious to see who the Hurricanes will take on in round 2. But before then, just enjoy it. Reflect on a great round 1. You got through for the 7th straight time, and then you get to rest a little bit and just enjoy some other hockey for a little bit until we find out who the Hurricanes play in round 2. But this was a wild series. I'm excited to see what comes next. But guys, that will be Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen today. Let's check our NHL game on Locked On NHL. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned, get a local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where I do have link trees in my bios, where you can check out all of my written content for the Carolina Hurricanes at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my other podcasts, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. And if you want to check out Locked On Hurricanes, well, it's on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the wonderful winning edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Wednesday. Enjoy the Hurricanes winning the series and then move on to round 2. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.